Welcome into Inside the Game. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky, episode 221 here on the National Soccer Network. You should do one horn for every episode. That's what I think we should be doing moving forward. So every one horn for every episode. That's what I'm thinking moving forward if you want. So you got 222 horns tomorrow. So if you just make sure you got those fingers in the arm ready and that you're not, going to burn out because it's a lot of horns, but I feel like that's what we should be doing. Just saying.
Ooh, it's a lot. I might just take off the headset for that. Don't even know what you're going to say.
But welcome back into Inside the Game. Make sure you give us a follow on social media, National Soccer Network, wherever you find your social media. Ryan, I wanted to just mention this because I know that you mentioned it on the show at the tail end of last week. Something that you saw on Netflix that you're like, I already know you're going to be all over top of this, and you're right. And that was the Boys of 80 documentary that came out
on Friday. Didn't know if you needed to get ready, wear your jersey, get your popcorn and your snacks ready. So I just curious if I needed to do a show solo on Friday.
My special socks, all that stuff. No, I was good. I actually just ended up watching. It was a late night watch for me, but I did end up catching the Boys of 80 documentary. I thought it was really well put together. It's one of those things that I feel like it's kind of overdriven in American culture. We bring it up in every single situation that we can, at least some of us. Obviously it's a Disney special, but reliving that moment is great. Now it is for sure, but I think it really did a good job of highlighting all the specific players. I think it did a good job highlighting the actual lead up to the Soviet Union game, which was just as uncanny and unexpected as anything else, because they actually showed the video from their first game that they played in the round robin portion, which hockey and soccer and any knockout tournament in that way, but it's very similar. Obviously much less teams because it's hockey. But there was no one. I mean, the place was half full when they started, and then by the time they got to Czechoslovakia, which was before the medaling round when they faced the USSR, it was packed out and there were people all over. So I think the build-up, which the movie didn't do, I don't think as much justice to that component. I thought the documentary did really well. I just wanted to read off some of my favorite, or at least my favorite Herb Brooks quote from the movie, because they did a really good job in the actual movie itself and in the documentary of portraying him the way that he was, which was he was cold and frankly he was an asshole. And it's actually, he talked about it after like all this was done. Like he felt like he needed to be, because that's how the Soviet Union, that's how the Red Army was. I mean, it was a society, as a culture that emotion isn't a thing. Like it's such a collectivist culture that if you smile, everyone else has to be smiling. Like there's no room for individual feelings or creativity. Like it is a very collectivist culture. That's just how the Russian people are. But Herb had some funny lines. One of them being, and if you're ever a head coach, Ryan, maybe you can drop this one on the kids. You're playing worse every day. You are playing worse every day. And right now you're playing like it's next week. That one was that was a pretty funny one. I was sitting in my room laughing.
He was gonna go, Izzo, you can't guard my mom.
You can't guard my mom. That would have been good too. There were a few other ones that I didn't write down, but that was Steve Janicek, one of the goalies, that he said that too. He called him Janny. He's like, yeah, Janny, you're playing worse every day, and right now you're playing like it's next week. So that's funny. And if I'm ever a head coach, I'm dropping that line one of these days, 100%. But anyways, that's enough on the Boys of 80 documentary. I recommend anybody that's out there that just likes a good story to go watch it. You don't even have to be a hockey fan. It's just it's one of those. Yeah.
So how accurate is the movie then? Because I haven't watched the documentary. I was doing other things this weekend, but I didn't even watch it yesterday. So how accurate is the movie then? Because that's obviously
surprisingly accurate. Yeah, because the documentary was going through the different things like regionalism, which obviously we saw a lot of that with the Minnesota guys and the Boston guys, and then you got, the different camps of players. So that was really accurate. Obviously, the socioeconomic standing between the two countries, that was all very apparent. That was all very much on display. And then obviously one of the things that they did in the movie, which, I found out about later, they actually studied the movements, kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody. I forget the actor is who played Freddie Mercury. He studied all of his movements in these certain performances in order to directly replicate exactly what it looked like for the movie. Miracle did the same exact thing. Like
because they recruited
way
actual hockey players to be actors.
Yeah.
They didn't recruit actors to be hockey players.
Right. So that all of that was really accurate. The thing that I liked about the documentary that the movie didn't really get into, the movie Finland was just like a note at the end when they won the gold medal. But they once again in the documentary they actually went into the game, and Herb's speech, which is that's the one thing the movie played up, was Herb's speech before the Soviet game.
Well, obviously.
Because he walked in, in real life, and he walked in and he said, it was like 3 different lines. I forget what he said specifically, but he's like, "This is your moment. Go take it." And he walked out. Like, obviously the movie, it's like a whole big thing. But in Finland, before Finland, he goes, "If you don't win this game, you will take it to your grave." And then he just walks out. And I'm like, whew. I wish the movie would have gotten into that a little bit more. But obviously it was centered around the USSR and that upset, which was obviously the biggest one of all of them. So and if the U.S. men's national team were to somehow make a run in 2026,
there'll be a movie.
There will be a movie. There will be a documentary, and I think more importantly, it'll probably look a lot like that because the U.S. in hockey was expected to finish anywhere from 6th to 12th that year. 6th is really shooting high for this U.S. men's soccer team. But even Herb Brooks said, and they said it in the documentary, if we play extremely well, if we do everything correctly, we might win a medal. That's what he said to his own guys. So that's kind of our mentality. If we get out of the group, if we make a quarterfinal, if we, then it's a success and we're doing okay. So I don't expect it to happen, but I don't know. It's sports. You got to play the game. But let's get into our first hour topics here a little bit. I know that this was something you had mentioned at the end of our show yesterday. You were actually already chomping at the bit in the final 2 minutes of our show yesterday to talk this morning. And so I'm going to let you lead the way on this story. But Ronaldo is conniving and scheming against players to come into the Saudi league. He's calling the shots, and you don't like that. So what's going on with
the Saudi league? Just
into the Saudi league.
The Saudi league, and it's not.
Oh yeah, yep.
No, it's quite simple, and Ronaldo doesn't think that his team is being treated fairly and himself fairly, which is weird because he makes like 500,000 pounds a day, but it's whatever. But no, this is currently the saga that happened yesterday. Of course, yesterday was deadline day for the January transfer window. Yes, it was February 2nd yesterday. I do understand that, but just blame Europe. Ronaldo is upset with the lack of transfer business Al Nassr is doing. He thinks the Public Investment Fund, that is what PIF is ensuring Al Hilal wins the league. So for people who don't understand this, which, again, I didn't really understand this either until I did some research, that the PIF actually funds like 4 or 5 Saudi League teams, and it feels like they're doing everything in their power to make sure Al Hilal is given the enough funds to win the title and win the league. That's how Karim Benzema, and for some reason they spent $26 million on Pablo Mari, who absolutely is dog water as a center back, just from experience. And then Ronaldo tried to actually veto the move yesterday for Karim Benzema to move to league leaders Al Hilal, saying this is making the league unfair. Benzema still ended up making the move. Ronaldo did sit out yesterday in the Saudi league, and basically what he's trying to do is sit out. And, I mean, he's the face of the Saudi League. He's 100% the face. And if he sits out, I mean, what does that give the Saudi League? It gives them a bad rap. And for the MLS fans out there, you might be thinking this is a league that we are trying to compete against in terms of everything, because this is a league that is kind of on the same playing field as the MLS. And for people who don't want to agree or think like that, well, it is. And the MLS is just a peg higher. But basically, all this is Ronaldo is vetoing the move. I have some history later up as we talk about this. Probably after the break, we'll talk about the history of Ronaldo vetoing moves and sitting out and all that fun stuff. But no, that's what this is right now. Is he's upset that he doesn't think that the PIF is giving his team Al Nassr the fair shake of things, and he thinks that all these other teams and his team isn't becoming better, and all the other teams are.
So is it so in your mind? This isn't him trying to correct some sort of perceived injustice. It's him just essentially saying we don't have the best guys on our team, so therefore I need to make some sort of bigger statement about the league. Because from what I was reading when you were talking about that initially, and in the graphic that you showed up on the screen, there already is some sort of imbalance in the Saudi league in terms of where the talent is going. Like that is kind of manufactured, and it comes back to obviously the company that owns the different what you were talking about, but
the different teams.
What is yeah, exactly. So it already seems like there's kind of an imbalance in there. Do you just think it's petty that he's sitting out and handling it the way that he's handling it?
I mean, this is a history of this happening. Ronaldo
Yeah.
is it the right way to do it? Depends on the way that you look at it. You might be thinking, "Oh, he's standing up for himself. He's standing up for his team of trying to be in the right spot." But the way that it's being portrayed to me just seems like he's just a big crybaby. Like you're telling me that you're upset that the other teams are strengthening and this is unfair to your team. You're supposed to be the greatest ever to do this. You should be fine with this. Kareem Benzema's old as too. Like they're 1 point ahead of you. And sure, being Benzema being added, I'm sure strengthens it, excuse me. But no, his response is very Ronaldo-esque. It's very LeBron-esque. It's very crybaby like.
Yeah.
That's what it just feels like to me. And
Yeah.
I think that to me, I think this is the wrong way of doing things. To me, I think that this is the hand that you're dealt. I mean, you played for Real Madrid for forever. You got the benefit of the doubt and everything for 10 years. I mean, you got the moves you wanted every way you want, every stop you made outside when he was a teenager. But ever since he moved to Real Madrid, Juventus, Man United, he's gotten every move he's wanted. He's vetoed managers for crying out loud. That's later on. But he's gotten everything that he needs, and he's crying about it. I mean, I get it for himself. He's standing up for himself. He's got so much pull as it is anyway. But it just sounds like you're just being a crybaby about it. You know what? Go out there and go play the games. Ultimately, everything is on paper. Sure, it looks like El Hilal's got an advantage. But you know what? The games aren't played on paper. The games are played out in the field. Go out there and win it. Stop bitching about it. Go get it done. You're Ronaldo. You're supposedly the best player of all time. Get it done.
You're right.
Stop crying about it.
Yeah. And that's what I sometimes I feel like, at least maybe with you and other people, that's what just doesn't sit well with them, especially if you want to do the whole Messi and Ronaldo comparison, which I know we talked about. We should really just like kind of carve out like an entire half-hour segment on our show just to talk Messi v Ronaldo, because obviously just how big of a conversation that is in the game. But I think this is a big portion of it. Like you don't hear a lot from Messi in that way. Messi just goes out and plays. He just goes out and balls. Whereas you look at Ronaldo, and there's always some level of drama, to your point, that follows him everywhere he goes, every league he's a part of, every team that he's on. And the older that you get, I feel like that entitlement just becomes more and more. We see the same thing with LeBron. He feels like there are more strings that he can pull. There's more influence that he can have. The only difference between someone like LeBron and a Ronaldo is I don't know if LeBron necessarily influences other decisions in the league. Like, I don't know if LeBron looks at OKC and goes, hey, you guys are going so comfortably over the luxury tax that you're financially burying yourself, but you're stacked, No,
the Saudi league is also much newer. So, I mean,
exactly.
There's easier to have an influence, whereas the NBA, you really can't influence the league's decisions. You can't really influence
Yeah, it's more
anything else. That's kind of
established.
what
Yeah.
the higher ups are for, to influence all those
Yeah.
decisions. Yeah, LeBron can
Right.
100% influence his team's decisions, but he can't go out there and influence anything else. I think Ronaldo is just using his influence and his power to make the Saudi league look bad, and him saying, look it. The only reason, if you were to take Ronaldo out of the league, I bet you they lose more than half their viewers, because there's one reason why they're looking at this league, and there's a reason why Messi, why people are watching the MLS. It's for
Major
Messi.
League Soccer. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
If the MLS were decide to take Messi out of the league, I mean, the league would lose a ton of viewership. That's just the reality of it. I'm not saying the league.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the MLS would collapse or anything, because they've survived long enough without Messi. But the amount of new viewers you would get would worsen, just because of the pull that Messi has, and especially the pull that he's got within Inter Miami. But I think all he's trying to do is Ronaldo is, and there's actually, we'll talk more about it after breaks here, of where he could end up, because it's leaning that Ronaldo is leaving, and the MLS is on the cards for him. Ronaldo, that is. And I mean, how crazy would that be to have Messi and Ronaldo in the MLS? But it just seems like he is putting the ball in the Saudis' court, and it failed for him. And ultimately, I think that we're going to see a departure of Ronaldo in the Saudi league, and that ultimately, I mean, they're going to save a ton of money. I mean, the guy makes like 300 million a year, whatever it is. So it's not like he's hurting or anything. He gets an $80K bonus for every goal he scores, and a $40K bonus for every assist.
Yeah.
It's like Kurt Warner in the Arena Football League. He gets $100 for every touchdown. He's like, well, I'm going to throw for 9 touchdowns today and make $900. But it's like, it's just that he's making the league look bad. And ultimately, he knows, and I think the league knows, if you make your one superstar in that league upset, and the player that is the sole reason why people come and view your league, you make him upset, you want him out, the league's going to fold. And the Chinese Super League, I've always said this. There's every 10 years or so, there's going to be a new soccer league that pops up in a country where there's a lot of money, and a league that isn't established yet. And we saw it with the Chinese Super League, and we've seen it with the Saudi League. But the thing is eventually all that collapses, because A, they don't really have the money. 2, the views and sponsors don't really come in. 3, eventually your superstars, the reason why people come to watch them, start to get upset. You don't pay them, because sometimes people have said they don't get paid for months. And eventually those players then leave, the league collapses. But for a brief couple of months, everyone thinks that this league is going to take over the Prem, La Liga, Bundesliga. That's just not the case. And eventually we're going to see the same thing with the Saudi League, just like we saw the Chinese Super League probably 10-ish years ago. I don't remember exactly when all that happened.
Well, with the amount of money that is being thrown around by the Saudis, I almost feel like there's kind of like this like sense of like invincibility. Like they have the money to be too big to never fail. And the truth is that they're trying to break into. Yeah, that's true. But they're trying to break into every market, because the amount of money that they do have, obviously the oil money and everything else.
One fight a month. You're fine. You can sustain.
Probably do it.
Take over boxing, for crying out loud. You have that. I mean, boxing's dying as it is anyway. It's just becoming.
They're trying to take over. They're trying to take over rugby, which I don't know. I mean, it's still a niche sport, but I mean, I guess they can make probably a super league over there. But I get what you're saying. It's more Ronaldo making it about Ronaldo and less about addressing what the perceived corruption is, which again, there are ways of going about that, but just by sitting it out, it feels like a, hey, look at me kind of moment for him. But let's take a break. We'll continue this conversation on the other side, telling you guys about the super camps. You're talking about super leagues. How about the soccer camps, rather, that is FC Bayern. Summer soccer camps are a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, fostering football excellence across North America. Open to boys and girls of all skill levels, FC Bayern camps deliver elite training inspired by FC Bayern Munich's world-class philosophy. Select your city and start a promising soccer path. And right now, save $30 on registration by using promo code BayernNSN30. Again, that's BayernNSN30. Or scan the QR code on your screen. Learn more at fcbayernyouth.com. Back live on the National Soccer Network, talking about Cristiano Ronaldo in the Saudi League right now and that whole saga that's going on. Just got done talking a little bit about that. But Ryan, it's a part 2 to this conversation, and you wanted to get into a little bit of the history of Cristiano Ronaldo. And this has obviously been a theme throughout the course of his career. And it's one of those things that for people who followed his career, that is just kind of annoying. He is very much a me-centered player at certain times, and you got a couple examples that you want to list off.
Yeah, there's just three. In his last threes, or no, a couple last stops. Obviously, this one he tried to veto N'Golo Kante, Karim Benzema, and Youssef En-Nesyri this past summer. If Benzema, the thing was that he was trying to stop is Benzema then goes to El Hilal, then it create a domino effect of Conte going to Turkey, and same with En-Nesyri going to or coming into the Saudi League and from Turkey. So it was going to create a whole domino effect. That's why he ultimately tried to stop this move. In 2022, he vetoed Man United trying to sign Antonio Conte as the Manchester United manager. I believe at that time, I can't remember where Conte was, because I think no, that was after he got sacked. So, no, that was before he went to Tottenham ultimately. But said he just straight up did not want to work with Antonio Conte. But Conte ended up going to Tottenham, and then got fired from there, and I don't even know where the man has been since. Then in 2017, he was reported to block moves for Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Arturo Vidal to join Real Madrid, so they didn't steal his glory. So if we put in this time, in 2017, Vidal was still unbelievable for Juventus as a CDM. He was unbelievable. I mean, that midfield three would have been upgraded even more with Real Madrid. And then 2017, Zlatan was still capable of doing stuff at a high level. It would have to be a little bit smaller. We didn't have to play week in, week out. And then if we talk about, him sitting out, I mean, he sat out at Juventus to get a move to Man United. He sat out at Man United to leave the club ultimately because he was upset with things, and this is just a history of these things happening. And Ronaldo has tried to make everything about himself. He doesn't want to lose his he wants to be the spotlight of everything and everything he has to do with the team. I mean, he got benched in the 2022 World Cup, and again, once they got knocked out in the round of 16, he came off the field crying, for crying out loud. And then Messi ultimately won the World Cup and solidified the GOAT conversation for Lionel Messi. But no, it's just that Ronaldo he's got a history of doing this wherever he goes, whether that is, vetoing moves or trying to boycott to get things that he wants, or just stopping everything to make sure that he is still the center of attention, which, I mean, you look back at those Real Madrid teams where they won 3 straight Champions League. I mean, you still had Gareth Bale, unbelievable player at the time. That was before he wanted to play golf all the time. Benzema, unbelievable striker. Then you had Modric, you had Toni Kroos. Who was the third midfielder? There was a third midfielder that was really good. And I don't know, but that midfield three was unbelievable. But anyways, it's just like, at what point do you just try to be a good teammate? Like, a lot of people don't like being around this guy. They want to, like, he's an unbelievable player. Don't get me wrong. Like, Ronaldo is an unbelievable player. But he's just becoming a prima donna, and it's just annoying. And I can't say I've ever seen a player veto moves. Like, we've seen LeBron obviously have his say in a head coach and all that stuff. But does he really influence all these moves? I mean, not that it's ever come out, but I don't know. I just don't like this. I don't like this at all.
And it becomes harder to really give him the benefit of the doubt when he has a track record and a history of doing these things. Looking at it from an objective point of view, you can look at the situation in the Saudi League and go, okay, there's a lot of money and there's probably a lot of corruption there. With the amount of money that's flying around. And so I can see where, maybe Cristiano Ronaldo, and there's probably other players that probably feel the same exact way, that this just isn't right the way that this league is run. And I don't think they're unique in that. I think there's a lot of professional leagues that are going to kind of manufacture parity in one way or another, or manufacture a league or a team of superstars or a collection of teams. We see that all the time. But it's hard for people to sit back and actually relate to what he's doing, or think it's anything other than just a personal move and a me decision when you listed off all the examples that you just listed off. There's a track record here. It very much has a boy who cried wolf kind of vibe to it. Like, at this point, no one's buying it. At this point, we understand what the deal is. We understand what your view of yourself is. And as opposed to just finishing things out and maybe leaving the Saudi League, which he is perfectly capable of doing. You know, I mean, if anything, I think it's more pathetic to see a player of his caliber, having this petty back and forth with a startup league that's trying to become one of the biggest leagues in the world. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, your history, your reputation, your name, all of it. And yet you're over here having a petty back and forth with the Saudi league. You know, that's the thing, that it's not a good look for Ronaldo at all either on that side. So from a reputation perspective, I think it's damaging. But again, if you're looking for sympathy from the football world for the decision you're making, you're not going to get it from a lot of places, because again, simply, they understand who you are, they understand what you've done, and they understand that this isn't the first time that we've seen these types of things out of you. So the question of Ronaldo coming to Major League Soccer, though, I think is an interesting one. I think maybe hypotheticals on where he could land. I think both him and Messi being in the same league here in the U.S., I mean, you talk about the MLS owners would probably just lose their mind. I mean, that would be to think about. That was just it was a dream. It was a fantasy for a while. But let's not forget, like, Ronaldo, just in a lot of ways, when he initially made that move to the Saudi League, he looked like a sellout and a cop out to begin with. So who's to say that Major League Soccer can't come up with a good lump sum of money to give him, and then he ends up coming over to the MLS? So I just. Yeah, it's hard to believe a word that comes out of his mouth.
So I was actually doing some digging, and basically, Ronaldo had. So I think Ronaldo is gonna leave. I ultimately think in the summer, after the World Cup, I think Ronaldo is going to leave. Some people have said Europe is a destination, and also the MLS is a destination, because there's MLS clubs that are currently after him. And if we can obviously play the game at some point of, maybe tomorrow we can do that, of who can actually sign Ronaldo from the MLS. I mean, he's got a 50 million euro release clause. I don't know what that is, the dollars, but that's basically what again, he could also terminate his contract, or the club could terminate his contract, and he could be able to leave for free. We don't obviously know the situation, but we'd have to find clubs that could ultimately try to sign Ronaldo for 50 million. And obviously there's only a couple of locations that could probably afford this. Could you imagine if they team up in Miami? Like, that would be insane if Ronaldo and Messi teamed up in Miami. Like, to actually sit there and think that these two are playing on the same team in the MLS, Inter Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone would tune in all the time, because especially to see those two like play together, and obviously we've never seen Kobe or LeBron play with each other, or MJ and LeBron play with each other. We've never actually seen greats play with each other, unless that is obviously Team USA in the Olympics. Obviously, that obviously is the only time. But we've never seen them actually play in a competitive pro league environment, all that stuff. Could you imagine if those two, like, playing with each other, the amount of attendance that would, like, everyone in the world would probably tune into that, and the MLS would just start skyrocketing. Everything would be so much more, and like, that could ultimately be like the golden era of MLS soccer. That would be, but I ultimately think that they should.
That would be the magic. That would be the Bird and Jordan of. Yeah, that would be the Bird and Jordan. Yep. The only difference is like, they would be better as competitors, in my opinion.
And
versus
ultimately,
on the same team.
I think the MLS would veto that move, because they're like, dude, you got to go to a different team just to see people compete. Yeah. I think that's what. Right. And ultimately, the new GOAT conversation would be like, well, who has the most MLS cups? Who's got the most US Open cups? Who's got the most of that? Like, that's ultimately what it would come down to. But I think for the MLS, like, that would be the best thing that could ultimately, this whole saga yesterday could be the best thing for MLS soccer. Like, because if you think about it, if he gets this ticked off, he might want to leave the league. He might want to leave the team. Obviously, lots of things can still happen before the transfer window opens up again, and a lot of things that have to go right behind the scenes. But I'm just saying, this could be the best thing that could happen to MLS soccer. And in my own personal opinion, I think Ronaldo is just a bitch at this point. Like he just tries to control everything, and that's not me.
He called everybody bitches on the show.
I know this isn't me hating this, and this because I like Messi more. That has nothing to do with it. I think Messi's a better player. I think Messi's a better teammate. And for the people that are Ronaldo fans, or excuse me, Pinaldo fans, that all think like, oh, Messi, is actually has a dark side and all this fun stuff. Well, yeah, he does, but he does it on the field. He doesn't do it behind the scenes and out in the media and controls all this stuff. Messi actually instigates a lot of things on the field. He instigates a lot of things, but the teammates respect Messi so much and have an aura about him that he backs up everything. You know the term of second guy always gets caught? Well, yeah. Because Messi starts a lot of things. He knows when to do it right, but everything happens on the field. It doesn't happen off the field. It doesn't happen in the media. It doesn't happen where he's trying to control team decisions. But Ronaldo has a past of this. And I will say this, if you're an MLS side that wants to ultimately get Ronaldo, I mean, you got to realize that, this could ultimately happen to you a couple times. He could veto a couple of your moves in the MLS, whether Ronaldo's trying to persuade players to come to your team, trying to persuade players to come to the league. Like ultimately, the MLS might not even want this distraction. If you think about it, the MLS might not even want this distraction for the league itself. If they don't want Ronaldo to be doing this and giving the league a bad reputation, because Messi, coming over from Ligue 1, he's done nothing but boost the reputation of the MLS. He's never said anything bad, and he's never vetoed anything. So, I mean, Messi's done a really good job for the league. Ronaldo, you kind of have to have that little bit of caution when you're dealing with a player like Cristiano Ronaldo, like a player you're dealing with LeBron. You have to have this caution that things might go a little bit sour quickly, and some decisions might be made without the GM or the owner actually trying to make these decisions. So that is just a little bit of caution. But could you imagine Ronaldo and Messi in the MLS together? I'm just saying that could be something.
I'm trying to picture them being on the same team. That's where my mind automatically goes. It's like this world in which the Messi and Ronaldo camps, who forget MJ and LeBron for a second. That is the most heated comparison in sports. Like, it is in a lot of ways, like the Messi and Ronaldo camps like do not like each other. So I'm trying to envision a world in which they're on the same team. I'm also trying to envision a world in which Cristiano Ronaldo plays the Chattanooga Red Wolves in the U.S. Open Cup.
They all of a sudden, what's Ronaldo? Why does Chattanooga have a sold out crowd, and why are they at like the Tennessee Titans Stadium today? Oh well, it's
what the hell's
Ronaldo
going on? Cristiano Ronaldo's in Major League Soccer. Oh man. And I think the other thing is like the world would have such an allergic reaction to that happening too. Ronaldo and Messi both being in an American league. I mean, it would not sit well.
Oh no, it wouldn't, because the league would continue to grow and people would have to start looking at that and the amount of money that would, ultimately you could maybe see the discussion of the MLS maybe taking some players in their prime over to the MLS. That's the reality of it. But I will say this: you just talked about LeBron, MJ. That's also such a hard debate because of MJ and LeBron played in different eras. Like MJ was the 90s, the 80s, LeBron was 2000s, 2010s, and now 2020s. What makes the Messi Ronaldo debate so easy is the fact that these two played each other at the same time. They played in the same league for a decade plus. They did that. They actually played against each other 2, 3, 4 times a year. And you can actually have a pretty apples to apples comparison for the two. The only difference is once Ronaldo left Real Madrid to go to Juventus, and then Messi goes to France, and now Ronaldo in Saudi, and now Messi in the MLS. So now it starts to become a little apples to oranges, but it's such an easy comparison because those two played against each other in the same league at the same time, and dude, man, they had some great battles back in the day. I don't know if they necessarily played each other in the Champions League. I'd have to go back and actually look at that. And then also they played in the World Cup in those tournaments at the same time, and obviously Messi has 2 trips to the World Cup final and one that he ultimately won. But no, that's why that comparison is so easy, and it's a much easier debate. And you can remove different era did this era has this, and this, and this, and continuation.
Yeah.
And now LeBron's. I remember that term this time in the LeBron era. But
yep.
no, it's such an easy comparison. And I think tomorrow, I actually got a list here of teams that could ultimately afford. Let's play that game tomorrow of the teams that could afford a 50 million euro release clause for what's his name, Ronaldo. So, and one of them is Inter Miami. Just saying.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. I mean, I assumed it was Inter Miami. I also think LA is probably another one. I was thinking maybe LAFC for Ronaldo. Man, what's a couple of different California franchises. So yeah, I would assume, yeah, that there is, and we've always said that, like the MLS, it's not a question of financial backing. It's just a question of when will it finally break? When will you finally have your moment? Messi was the first. Well, I wouldn't say Messi was the first major pillar, right? Like I think David Beckham was the first big one, and then obviously Messi, and now Sun Hung Kim, and then now obviously or who's Yu-Ming Sun. There we go. Sorry. But he would just be, Ronaldo would be another pillar in all of that. But let's take a break, and then we'll come back and cap off here our soccer conversation in hour number 1 on the National Soccer Network. And we will take a step aside and be right back. I asked you about this right before we started the show, so I think it's an interesting conversation, and I just want to hear you repeat what you said before the show, because I thought it was interesting and I thought it was accurate. So let's take a break, though. We'll be right back.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind. Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics, letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail. Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play, NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate. Call 586-304-4405 and start watching today.
Back live, National Soccer Network. Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky here on this. Is today's Tuesday, right?
Yes.
All right, I get my days all mixed up. Today is Tuesday, episode 221 here on the National Soccer Network, wrapping up our soccer portion of our conversation today. We got a good stacked lineup of stuff coming up on the all sports section. By the way, check us out on Sports Nation TV, but we're going to talk a little bit more about Izzo and Dusty May. Also, I'm going to get into my list of top 5 gingers of all time, obviously with Sam Darnold playing in the Super Bowl, and the theory out there that redheads can't win Super Bowls. I'm going to list off my top 5 redheads, which I am not a traditional redhead, but I have red on my face, so it all counts. You got red hair, it counts. We're also going to talk about the arbitration hearing for Carrick Skubal. Obviously, the biggest gap at $13 million. Can they come to a conclusion? I tend to think that Carrick Skubal's camp's going to win out. But let's wrap up the soccer portion of our conversation here today. Man United, another win yesterday. Now 3 wins under Michael Carrick since taking over as the what they're calling him, the caretaker at Man United. Obviously, because their manager got sacked, but defeated Fulham 3-2 in a Premier League match at Old Trafford yesterday. Benjamin Sesko scored a 94th minute winner. They were up 2-0 late in that match. Ryan was watching the game before we started our episode on 2x speed to see how it actually wrapped up, but secured 3rd consecutive victory, like I said, interim manager Michael Carrick, and were able to get that job done. So just a short good run of form for Man United. And I know I asked this question once upon a time on the show, and you were fairly adamant about the fact that this is not going to happen. And obviously, it has been said by the man himself that it's probably not going to happen. But the question was posed on ESPN today: is Michael Carrick less of a caretaker and more of a future option for Man United? But you say history shows otherwise, and it shows the inability of Man United to, actually hold on to someone who's worth holding on to. So what says you about the situation with Man United in the recent win streak as of late?
It's just as I put it at the bottom there, the Manchester United endless cycle of insanity. That is that's just what it is. And there's been caretakers before that have done really well. Shout out Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and we ultimately know how that thing wrapped up. And I'll tell you about this. The Manchester United endless cycle of insanity established since 2013, since Sir Alex Ferguson left. So here's what happens. New manager comes in, whether that's a caretaker or whether that is a new permanent manager. All of a sudden, they start winning some games. We saw that with Solskjaer, and we saw that, obviously, right now with Michael Carrick. Then all of a sudden, we get to the summer of that next window. Boom. Manager's either promoted or given, or is now given both are now given a ton of money. So that interim is now, that caretaker, is promoted to full-time, and that manager is now given a ton of money to influx money into the squad. Then all of a sudden they go out and make probably 2 to 3 50 million plus signings, and all of a sudden everyone gets all happy and all that fun stuff. Shout out Anthony for 100 million. Man, did he suck.
Yeah.
That's a celebration. And then after that happens, all of a sudden the season gets going. Couple wins to start the season. Then all of a sudden the manager starts to get figured out. The players stop caring. And then the results go. They start sucking. So all of a sudden pressure starts to build on the manager. Then they get knocked out of the Carabao Cup to a Division 4 side. And they get knocked out of the Champions League and the Europa League. And then all of a sudden the league, they're just outside the top 4. Then what happens? They're sacked. And then we do the cycle all over again. Look, the simple solution is Manchester United does not give managers enough time. That's simply what it is. If my guy Mikel Arteta was going to Manchester United, that guy would have been sacked within probably the first year of him being there. Look, he had horrible results with Arsenal, especially to start his second season. I think the only reason that saved him was COVID. I think that was the only reason that he got saved. But all of a sudden, he was given, I think, 4 transfer windows, 2 summers, 2 Januaries, and all of a sudden he got his guys in, and then everything started to shift in the upward direction, and ever since then they haven't really looked back. And big game tonight for them. But that's what Manchester United is. It's just an endless cycle of insanity, established since 2013, and been going on from 2013 to 2026. Look, do I think Michael Carrick is a good manager? I think he is. He did a really good job with Middlesbrough. But the only difference is he couldn't get them promoted into the Premier League. That's why he got sacked this past summer. He had a couple of good seasons, a really good record, about over a point and a half per game at his time at Middlesbrough. He's a good manager. But the thing is when you go to a club like Manchester United and you become a permanent manager there, if you don't win trophies, you aren't competing in Champions Leagues, you aren't competing in Europa Leagues, and he clearly wasn't getting the job done at Middlesbrough, you're ultimately going to get sacked. Look at Amorim. I mean, they were in the top half of the table. They were just outside the top 4, and the guy was getting sacked. So that's just ultimately what it is. And he's not going to be given enough time. He's going to take the permanent job, and ultimately that kind of ruins a lot of managers' success and their opportunity to get other jobs. I guess kind of, because David Moyes has a job now with West Ham, and he's now going to get sacked, but that's a different story. Ten Hag went to Leverkusen, and ultimately he's now sucking at Leverkusen. But that's not his fault. The whole team was gutted. Who else was there? Amorim doesn't have anything. I don't remember where Louis van Gaal went. And Solskjaer doesn't have a job either. And Michael Carrick seems like a guy that will ultimately lose. He's going to get sacked at some point within the calendar year, I believe. I believe if not early 2027. That's if he's given the permanent job. And a lot of these managers that are seen as the caretaker, they don't want to be promoted full-time because they know what can happen with Manchester United. It's like like taking the Cowboys job. You eventually got to win some stuff. And the Cowboys haven't been doing that, obviously, since the 90s. And Manchester United hasn't won anything really since 2013. Sure, they've won a Carabao Cup every now and again. They've won a Europa League here and there. But they just haven't competed. They haven't even competed in the Premier League since 2013. We're kind of allowed, they have a couple second-place finishes, but if you look back at the table, it was a country mile between first and second. So, no, that's why Carrick, if he does take the job, well, good luck, Michael.
I imagine it would be hard for anybody who is in a position to manage this team, even for a short amount of time. Probably has some serious trust issues with the front office. And that means that there's always going to be an air of uneasiness. There's always going to be an air of looking over your shoulder. And as a manager, the one thing you're looking for is trust. The comparison that I'll make is, do you ever meet those those people that are always in a certain they're in the talking stages with someone every couple of months, constantly they are talking to someone new. They are with someone new. They're doing something with someone new. It is almost pathological in the way that they do it. And you can almost set your watch to it. It's going to last this long and then it's going to be over. They're going to find, the one thing that they don't like. There's no patience. There's no way to there's no working through issues. It's just it's just over. The serial daters, if you will. That's what it's the person that you probably don't want to be around or be with, because you understand how this works. We're going to be okay for this certain stretch of time, and then eventually it's just going to fall off a cliff and it's going to be over, and then we're starting from scratch again. So this is these managers, and Michael Carrick being one of them, deciding, do I try to stick it out with the toxic person and just hope that maybe it goes well? Do I try to stick it out and maybe think that, maybe they'll change, maybe they'll change their mind, maybe they'll act differently this time around? When people tell you who they are, believe them. Whether that be joking, whether that be whatever it is, if they tell you who they are, then believe them. And Man U has told you who they are a lot of times, and you just talked about the last decade plus of them acting this way. So for Michael Carrick, it's in what world would you ever want to put yourself in a position, much like if you're going to go after someone who's a serial dater, you put yourself in the position, you volunteer yourself to get your heart broken at some point. That you are volunteering to do that. You know what's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. You know what's around the corner. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. And that's where it's I don't care if Michael Carrick is in his mind the greatest manager of all time. You're not going to work for a company that doesn't respect that, or thinks that they know everything, or thinks you have to change and readjust your style and everything you are about yourself to fit this image that Man United has of themselves, which doesn't exist, and it hasn't existed for a long, long time. So I don't. That's where that's the life analogy that I feel I can draw parallels between. So the is Michael Carrick really just a caretaker? No, I think he's more capable than that. I think he is capable of building a culture and winning matches and doing much better than what they've done in the past. But you need a front office that isn't toxic, that hasn't been through the litany of breakups that you just mentioned. And sometimes when that stuff happens, when those situations don't really work out, it always pays to look back at, okay, what could I have done better? What could I have, because that's going to help you grow into the future. I don't think Man U has any sort of reflection. I don't think they have that side. I think it's everybody else's fault that we're in this position, not us. Not us.
You're
it
right.
isn't us. It can't possibly be us.
You're right.
So,
and
yeah.
You're not the only one that doesn't or that says that. And I just want to put this out there for the people. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, excuse me. He was simply there for a caretaker manager in 2018 and lasted quite a while, actually. He had a 74% win rate during his time. He won 14 games in 19 games with only 3 losses. So a 74% win rate. Then let's look at his when he became the permanent manager. He managed 168 matches, won 91, but that win percentage dropped to 54% with 40 losses and 37 draws. And obviously that's, a bigger sample size, so you're going to lose more games, obviously. But to have a 74% win rate as a caretaker and then all of a sudden a 54% win rate as a permanent manager over the time there, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm talking about here, because what happens in these new manager bumps, and we see it in hockey all the time, it's these coaches come in with a little bit of a different idea, and they have a different idea. The new players get a little bit happier because there's some new ideas going on. It happens everywhere. It happens in every sport, and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, this is so much fun! Like we're having fun again. This, and this," and then all of a sudden you get figured out a little bit, and teams start to, "Ooh, okay, they did this. We gotta let's do this and see how they react." And all of a sudden, those managers or coaches don't ultimately adjust and adapt to everything, and that's what happens at Manchester United on a yearly basis. And the thing is ultimately some of these players, some of these teams, and managers aren't given the time to. And Manchester United they're like a 13-year-old kid that watches TikTok or Instagram Reels every single day. They got a short attention span, and they don't have the results right away. That's just what happens. And I mean, if we're being completely honest, how does who's the Tampa Bay Bucks head coach? What's his name? What's the guy's name?
Oh boy, why don't I know this?
I know what he looks like.
Head. It's what's his face? Oh, Todd Bowles. How did I not know that?
Todd Bowles
go
fired?
ahead.
I mean, it's the same play. It's the same family that's running it. But no, it's a messy situation in terms of Manchester United. Do got a couple of mailbag questions regarding the Ronaldo situation that I find a little bit.
Go ahead.
Funny. We got a couple of minutes here before we get to 10 o'clock and tell you about the Barcelona camps. But this is coming from Danny. He said he's gotten all the players he's asked for and can't win. Maybe the team doesn't want to spend any more money till the team sees some progress. They haven't won anything since he's joined El Nassr. Well, yeah, he's right. Yeah, they haven't won anything. He's gotten a lot of players, but Sadio Mane, best player in the world. Sadio Mane. I forgot who said that. Some fan said that. I'm not laughing.
I just think
laughing.
I just think it's pathetic to see him just pointing fingers as much as he is. Dude, like you're one of the greatest of all time. Like 1A, 1B with Lionel Messi. It's the drama that really it doesn't sit well.
This one's a little dumb. This is coming from Israel Calderon. Bro brought up Messi, the same guy who retired because he kept losing in Argentina. The guy who had to have his friends on his team. So ridiculous, man. Focus on the NBA or the NFL. Well, I'll tell you, Calderon. If you're talking about Messi almost retired with his national team because of he couldn't win anything, then yeah, you have a valid point. But the thing is the players vouched for Messi to come back, and he did. And we're seeing there's only one other team that has the stretch that Argentina has. And we can argue Copa America versus Euros all you want. We can absolutely have that discussion. And I think everyone would agree that the Euros is a better competition. But you still won the World Cup ultimately, which matters. But there's only one time a team has won, an international team has won 3 straight competitions. And that is 2008 to 2012 Spain, who won the 2008 Euros, the 2010 World Cup, and the 2012 Euros, who battered Italy in 2012, by the way. And then what does Messi do? Wins now it would be the 2020 or 2021 Copa America. I forgot what all the COVID stuff. Then 2022 World Cup, and then the 2024 Copa America. So, Yeah, and then his friends joined the MLS side of Inter Miami. Let's stick it to him, Ronaldo fans. You can't say that. A real Pinaldo fan over here. I should say Ronaldo fan. He says diehard Ronaldo fan. Super Loop says diehard Ronaldo fan, but man, he needs to stop embarrassing himself. Yeah. I would say. I would say that. I'd say that's a good one. Okay. This is coming from Jerry_balls. Great profile photo of the way, by the way. Didn't Inter Miami get a bunch of players from Argentina to win an MLS Cup? But before that, they had players from all over South America. I mean, technically, they all came from some came from Europe, over in Spain. Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets. Then you had Rodrigo De Paul. He came over from Argentina. I mean, Suarez, Uruguay, obviously. But he came over from Atletico. So, I mean, yeah, he's South American. But, no, I mean, yeah, a couple players absolutely did come over. But, again, this is talking about the MLS and stuff. And the issue is Messi has won something in the MLS, and he isn't crying about it when he doesn't get his way. That's the whole discussion about this. Some of these people are just interesting. Let's see. Maybe we can say let's do.
It's like little like hating on people on the internet. That's what we talked about before coming into our show. Like I don't know, man. When it comes to sports, like I don't know.
I just don't. Jeremy Fears ones that I should probably read.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
I don't know if I can say.
You know what? Bees nest to kick. Yeah.
Last one. This regarding your video about European teams enjoying American culture. Antonio goes, "What American culture?"
Yeah, I thought that was funny. I was like, the fun stuff, dude. You know, like I don't know. Did you have a childhood growing up? That American culture. You know, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. That's what I was trying to tell people.
The beer tents, the little carnivals in the small towns.
Midget wrestling, as Ryan so passionately said. The midget wrestling in the middle.
I mean, midget wrestling is pretty sweet.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's great. Like I mean, it brings people in.
You got minor league baseball. They can tell you all about that and how Bluey comes every once in a while, and the kids love Bluey. I will say I think my favorite night when I worked for the Lansing Lugnuts was Motown night. That was so awesome. Every half inning break, Motown song. I'm sitting there in the camera, in the dugout. I'm just vibing. Probably all the Hispanic players are probably like, "What is this?" And I'm sitting there just vibing. And then my guy, Luis Morales, comes over and goes, "Hey, you want some Gatorade?" I'm like, "Yes, sir, I want some Gatorade, Luis." And that's why he's a pitcher now for the A's. So, shout out to him.
Let's take a step aside and tell you a little bit about
who doesn't love some minor league baseball.
FC Bayern. It's the greatest. It's the backbone.
Some Coors Lights. Some fireworks on Saturday night.
There you go. There you go. Hot dogs, pretzels, which is better than hot dogs in my opinion. But anyways.
Cheese
no,
or,
it's
cheese
and it's
or mustard
coming.
with your pretzels.
Cheese, and lightly salted. Please don't dump the entire bag on there. That's just not. It's not. It's not going to go well.
Mustard.
No, well, a little bit spicy stuff.
Cheese.
You ever had a true Bavarian pretzel, like the thick ones?
No.
I think you might have. Maybe you just don't remember it. But either way, like those ones are good. Good with the mustard. Good, great, actually, in fact, with the mustard. So, and you can eat one of those after going to FC Bayern's Bayern soccer camp. There we go. FC Bayern summer soccer camps. Barca. Oh my goodness. I'm giving back to back reads here. Let's get back on track. FC Barca Academy is a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network and the official academy of FC Barcelona in the United States. Designed for boys and girls ages 6 to 18, Barca Academy camps follow and replicate the FC Barcelona game model. Same philosophy used by Barca's professional coaching staff. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code FCB30 or scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you, fcbarcelona.us/camps.
In Barca camp, I sing my song grown on and off of the field. Don't miss the time to register.
Sign up now for Barca camp.
It is time for the all sports component portion of our show here on Inside the Game, episode 221 with Nate and Ryan. Every day, weekdays, 9 to 11 a.m. here on the National Soccer Network. Ryan, I know we talked in length yesterday about Michigan and Michigan State and that matchup. Most highly anticipated matchup, you could say. I mean, lowest combined ranking between the two in program history. Obviously, Michigan winning by 12, but all the antics and everything else that happens in and around the rivalry is why we love this petty rivalry so much, because it's not the biggest rival for Michigan. However, it is the pettiest, and I think in a lot of ways. And you put in our rundown here today. You think Tom Izzo and Dusty May actually hate each other. That is, hate's a big word. And I did see the video yesterday of Dusty May talking about how there's about 40 to 45 minutes of game film of MSU doing dirty non-basketball things, 40 minutes of MSU doing non-basketball things. Obviously, Izzo hates Michigan for obvious reasons. But what makes you think, let's play the audio that makes you think that that's the case.
So we'll start with Dusty May, because Dusty May talks first in the day yesterday. This happened after our show yesterday. Dusty May first, and then Izzo had a press conference later in the day, and then those people then made their way to Michigan State and asked questions. So this is Dusty May regarding Jeremy Fears, who I got a lot of heat from the other day.
I think there were several plays that are very dangerous, and I am incredibly proud of our guys for the responses they had to some of those situations. Incredibly proud for their self-control, their restraint, and their impulse control. I'll leave it at that.
Tony?
But they're not isolated incidents.
I'm not going to get into that. I have no idea, but I do know that I thought there were a couple plays the other way too, like jumping into a guy and getting a foul when it was a complete joke. This is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. And you know what? Michigan's over. I'm moving on to Minnesota. No insult to you. I don't care what Dusty says. I don't care what they say. I don't care. There were some things Jeremy did. I addressed on him. But him and their point guard were going at it pretty good. That's what happens in games like this. So if anybody did anything dirty, tell them to call me. And I would be more.
No, cut out there. He said he'd be more than happy to take those calls and talk about it.
Yeah. You know, the my favorite apology is the one that goes, yeah, well, this is what they did. Yeah, well, this is what you did. Well, yeah, Tom, well, we have evidence. We have physical, tangible, visible evidence of these things happening. Right? And you can bring up examples. Okay, a kid was trying to draw a foul. That's the dirty thing we're talking about here. That's the one example that you can bring up. Well, they did things too. Deflection is, you talk about things being a bitch. Deflection's a bitch.
Yeah.
Because deflection is an endless loop. You never have to admit you did anything wrong, because there's always something in the can that you can just throw back at the other person. Now, mind you, that this is rivalry stuff, right? This is Michigan State rivalry stuff. The only difference in this situation is, I think, when Dusty May says that there's these aren't isolated incidents, and we saw this trend, and we saw this trend throughout the course of this game. I believe him, because we see it with our eyes. But Izzo simply saying, yeah, I address that. It is what it is. I address that. Everything else, give me a call if you see anything. Give me a call. Let me know. Okay. I don't. You've been doing this for 30 plus years. Or how many years has Tom Izzo been in this thing? I mean, 3 decades at least. But come on. Are we really gonna play dumb here? Maybe just admit. Now, I understand his clapback about Michigan's over. We're moving on to the next one. He's frustrated, right? He's frustrated after a loss. He understands just how important that game was for MSU. So obviously he's going to have a little bit of pushback. I wouldn't expect someone like Tom Izzo to roll over, but deflecting is a unique way to go about addressing this situation for someone like Tom Izzo.
So I think the reason I say that they actually hate each other, because of obviously this little interaction, and then we had last year's incident obviously with the standing in the logo, which I can confirm with sources that was planned. I can confirm with my sources that was planned. And I thought that too. I was like, this is simply to light a fire under the the Michigan Wolverines. That's why I said when the Tigers were getting their little skid during that rough patch right before the playoffs, I said the Tigers should get into a fight. Let's get a benches clearing brawl. Light a fire under this team. That's what I thought, and ultimately that's what Michigan did. Is they fought each other, or they fought Michigan State a little bit. But if we look back at it, Beeline got there, and it seemed like there was a pretty mutual respect. Obviously, they don't like each other. Obviously, they want to win the game. Obviously, that's different. But it didn't seem like there was any heated exchanges in the press outside the game. Obviously, and then you get Juwan Howard, and oh boy, Juwan Howard. Yeah. That's a different story. But now Dusty May shows up, and in the second game of the rivalry, all that happens on Senior Day, and then we get to this game, and we have these little interactions after the fact. Look, I think Izzo, who looked at that game and was like, "Wow, we got beat our own way. Michigan beat us at our game. Tough, physical, down low, grabbing offensive rebounds, getting those second chance opportunities, running the floor, dunks, all that fun stuff. We couldn't get in the paint. We got bodied down low." That's what I think he's upset about, and ultimately you don't want to lose to your rival. Obviously, that's its own different discussion. But then we see the handshake just keeps walking, gets out of there. Maybe it's his birthday. Maybe he was upset about that too. Maybe that's another thing. But I also think is in the one foul he's talking about the Will Cheddar thing. Yeah, that's 100% not a foul. Cheddar, if you jump into a player, that should not be a foul. That's just my own opinion. But if we look at it, I also think it comes down to styles. How is Michigan State built? Everyone says, "Oh, they bought all the players." Well, what team isn't buying players? Get over it. Michigan had to go to the portal to find some of their guys. Well, they have to when you got a roster of 2 years ago of an 8-24 roster. Yeah, you got to gut the roster. But returning players, you have Roddy Gale, you have Namari Burnett, you have an LJ Kaysen, and your incoming freshman that play is Trey McKinney. Winters Grady was a player that played but seems to be hurt. But then you bring in your 4 of your 5 starters are transfers. Adai Amara, Yaxel Lindeborg, Cadeau, and Moraes Johnson. And you look at those players, and Izzo has time and time again said he doesn't like the portal. He doesn't like the money. He doesn't like all this. He wants it the traditional way. Well, Tom, you got to adjust a little bit. You got to adjust with the times. This is at your disposal. All of a sudden, $400 million was donated to the university. Maybe you could use that money. I don't know how this is all working. As I go to stadiums, as I go to football. But I don't know, maybe use that a little bit. I would start to use maybe some of that money and start buying some players. You have this high-impact incoming recruiting class as well. But the thing is freshmen don't win in college basketball. You can win with 1 or 2 freshmen that play a ton, but you got to fill those other spots with men, if you want to call it that. Lindeborg is a man. He's like 24, 23. Burnett's old. But you gotta adapt with the times here, Tom. And I get it. This really hurts you. And there's one other thing that I saw that I found was funny. So late in the game, Dusty May calls a timeout, and there's the game's over at this point. And the Michigan State man that is Rico Beard was, obviously upset. He's upset in the radio yesterday as well. Goes, "Hey, coach, what was with the late timeout late in the game?" And Dusty May goes, "I just wanted to control our guys." Maybe that timeout was to rub things in a little bit, put some more salt in the wound of Michigan State, that they got to sit another 30 seconds to a minute on it. But Dusty made a great response of saying, "You know what? I actually had to just control our guys," which is, again, fair response. I mean, based off last year.
Yeah, well, and an understanding that something might happen at the end. I mean, that's where we've gotten with this rivalry. I mean, we saw it in basketball. We saw it in football in the couple of years, a couple of matchups preceding what happened, obviously, with the standing on the Spartan head last year. It's funny because the first clip that actually went semi-viral that we ever did on this show, ironically enough, and it was back when we weren't doing all sports talk. We were only doing soccer talk, but for some reason, Michigan and Michigan State came up, and that was the first one that kind of went viral because I went, my understanding was like Dusty, you gotta know that's a tradition, but in hindsight, I could also see a situation in which for the players that was kind of planned. So I think in hindsight, those things probably don't sit well with Michigan State. And so that probably is what built this to a crescendo. So I can certainly see that being twofold. Yeah, you want to control your guys, but there's also maybe a little bit of gamesmanship there. Listen, I'm not saying that there's not any legitimate reasons for these guys to hate Michigan, but I think when it comes to the Izzo conversation, even while he doesn't necessarily agree or side with the transfer portal, he's still a good coach. But I think his fear is that the way of old, the way of doing things, and the MSU almost kind of having a stranglehold over the Big Ten Conference, especially when Michigan's irrelevant, which the way that they've been before Dusty May showed up. And even last year when they beat him twice, because it was still one of those teams that, I mean, a lot of the guys he brought in were transfers. I mean, they had the Twin Towers on that team. Like, that was a good basketball team. They just couldn't find a way to beat MSU. But I think this year is the year where we're all finally starting to realize, like, this could very easily become Michigan's conference because of Dusty May, and because his ability to navigate the business side of the conference. And so in Michigan State's response to that, much like it was in football, is not, okay, Michigan is putting their money where their mouth is, and tampering and all that aside, they're spending the money, they're making the investments, they're going all out. I mean, it just pouring money into these programs. Their response to that is simply, well, you're cheating, not, well, we have to change the way that we go about business and the way we go about doing things. And I respect Izzo's willingness to stay steadfast and being like, we're not going to do things that way. Okay, well, then you have to accept what it is. You're always going to be a good program. You're always going to be in the mix. But I don't see this state team being one that can win a national championship this year. No. I don't see it happening. And I don't know, but I'm 99.9% certain that the whole reason why Tom Izzo has stuck around for as long as he has is because he wants one more national title before it's all said and done. He wants to bring that back to MSU.
Mr. March.
But yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. At least at the turn of the century he was. But this is the thing. Like, you can just sit and point fingers and claim that everybody else is cheating, or you can look at your own program and go, listen, this is the way that this is all structured. This is the way that college athletics is. Either you adapt or you die. And I think right now MSU is at that crossroads, not just with basketball. I mean, with that, we could say with football too. Like, hockey might be the only program over there that I think is like consistently just going to win games and be in the conversation, at least lately. I mean, ever since they got Nightingale back, is Adam, right? I think. Who won a national championship there in 2007. I mean, it's just been an exponential climb. But outside of hockey, they really are at this crossroads now in college athletics where it's like, you had your days in the sunshine in basketball. You had your days in the sunshine in football. Obviously, that didn't work out for D'Antonio the way he wanted it to, but those were some really good teams. You can't build teams that way anymore.
No.
If you want to win at the highest level. And so I think that combined with it being his birthday, combined with the fact that Dusty May is, again, a baby in terms of Big Ten standards. Now, he's been coaching for a while, but he's only been in the conference for a couple of years. And so being like this young, cool as a cucumber, swaggy coach who's just like, just cool, calm, and collected, coming in and winning at a place like Michigan State, when I'll give credit, they've built a great team, but they didn't buy the right pieces. And so that's the part that I think Izzo is just slowly starting to realize that he, like the rest of these OGs in the coaching ranks, are just getting to a point now to where, I mean, every so often, I think you just see a video of these older guys just losing their mind to the media. We saw the breakdown from Calipari to the media and talking about how things aren't right anymore, which I think is rich because it's Calipari. But, you see obviously Izzo making comments about, G League players coming back and everything else that's going on. And we need more regulations, and the OGs are just, again, they're just slowly kind of going away. And it's because they realize that they are very good at doing their job the way it was supposed to be done a decade and a half ago. But now, it's not the same. It's not the same. So I think that adds to the level of animosity with Michigan and Michigan State, which you really didn't need to add anything to that kettle cooker, because it is what it is. And the rivalry has gotten to a point now to where it's it's petty on a different level. I think it's always been petty, but there's not, I wouldn't even say in some respects that there's a level of mutual respect. Like I even look at football, like Michigan and Ohio State, yeah, they hate each other, but I even think there's a level of like mutual, like, yeah, but we're Michigan and Michigan State. Like college football would not be the same without our two football programs. It wouldn't. Like no. the story of the season wouldn't be the same. To not have this matchup at the end of the year would not be the same, regardless of records. But for MSU and Michigan, it's just like, I just don't like you. It's not that, whatever, but it's just, I don't like you. I don't like your colors. I don't like what you represent. I don't like what you stand for. You're all Walmart fans because none of you went to the University of Michigan. Like it's easy to just apply and get into the University of Michigan. I didn't realize that you could just, get a 3.5 and be an average, average high school student and get into Michigan. Last I checked, that's not how that works. Whereas, MSU, the acceptance rate is far higher. So, I just feel like sometimes there's no, and I think that Izzo is getting to that point now. I think Beanline was different because Beanline, the way he carried himself and the way he coached was very similar to that of Tom Izzo. They were very similar in the way that they did things and the way they went about things and developed and got players and brought them up. And that's not Dusty May. Dusty May is such a far cry from what John Beeline was.
Even though Beeline vouched for him.
Yeah, even though he did. And I think for the record, I think John Beeline likes him because he's seeing Michigan win. He likes him a lot. I just think for Izzo, coaching against someone like that is probably extremely frustrating. Much like I'm sure it was frustrating for Beeline to coach against someone like Rick Pitino. Because you just kind of understand on the other side, like, yeah, there might be a little bit of conniving going on, but obviously now it's okay. It's accepted in the college space to do a little conniving and to be that way. I'm not saying it's right, but you can't be on both sides of the aisle if you're an MSU fan. You can't say, well, it is what it is when it works out for us, when we can land a guy and get our guy. But as soon as someone else does it or does it better than what we do it, now it's a problem. Yeah. I'll get off my soapbox, but I think you get where I'm going here.
Yeah, I would just say real quick because you bring up a point. The issue I have with Michigan State fans is simply something's always against them. Like, oh, they're against us. They did this. They have this, but we don't. The playing field, what has everybody talked about? It's the playing field is even. You have access to resources. You can use the portal. Nothing's stopping you. You can use money to buy players. There's nothing stopping you. But yet you don't use it. Well, we don't have this. I thought MSU's a great school. You produce CEOs and you produce all this. Your alumni's got money. You just had $400 million dumped into your school.
Yeah.
Use it.
Do they trust the athletics office to make the right choices, though? Like, do they trust the people in that position?
Probably not.
I don't think the donors do.
It's like, well, we have to be here in 2009. We have to operate like this. Newsflash, Michigan State, it's 2026.
Yeah.
Figure things out. You can use stuff at your disposal. You can use what Michigan is, but they're bought, but we're developed. Well, you know what? You can buy players, too. There is nothing stopping you. And you guys like to be on the high horse when you beat Kentucky because they had a $20 million roster. Well, congrats on you, but Kentucky ain't any good. So you beat a bubble team. Congrats, Michigan State. And then when you play against the big boys this year, you're 0-3. But they bought players, too. Nebraska bought players. They paid a CMU player that rides the bench $750K. But they bought a player. Great, Michigan State. You know what? You actually, instead of complaining about everything, go out there and do it. Go out there and spend some money. But, we got to do it the right way. Newsflash, it's 2026. Get it done.
Yeah, and isn't that funny? Because that's always been the knock on Michigan for forever.
Yeah, but
we gotta get to Michigan. Yeah.
They decided let's start throwing money around.
Let's do it. Yeah, we got it. But all the way leading up to that, it was always we got to get a Michigan man. We got to do it the Michigan way. And then obviously the Michigan way didn't work. It didn't work in a lot of regards. It worked.
Kyle now look at him.
Yeah. So it is a complete 180 in the way that business is done in the sport. But it's just it's almost kind of sad to see the deterioration that way in the way that it's going. Now, obviously, Michigan State's going to move on to Minnesota and they're still going to be in the fight for a Big Ten title and everything else along those lines. But the animosity between the two sides is growing to a climax. And I just think that, obviously we're seeing that play out on the grand stage. But yeah, I mean, Michigan State, you're well within your right to go out and do those things. And I always go back to what Mike Valenti, and I know we got to go to a break here soon. I always go back to what Valenti said when the first news broke about the Michigan cheating scandal. And it was hilarious because obviously he was, he's a Sparty homer. I get it. It's just it is what it is. But the conversation of, okay, well, Michigan at least is getting into the weeds and trying to do this. Yeah, Michigan actually prioritizes winning so much so that they're willing to actually have someone go to the length in which someone like Connor Stalions did in order to win at the highest level. Weird. Because winning is just such a priority that they're willing to go to that length to do it. I'm not justifying it per se. I'm just saying Valenti was like, well, at least they're willing to get into the weeds and do it, and they're getting away from this Michigan man thing. Yeah. MSU, you can do that yourself. And if you're scared of, that's going to bring controversy to our athletics department and our program, you've had experience with controversy before. Okay, this is not your first rodeo. Like there's this don't get up on this moral high ground where you're so much better than Michigan. I think we both got a few things that have happened in the past that have made our athletic departments look not so great. Some of us more in the recent past, okay? But, between you getting all those games whacked in football because you were playing ineligible players, Michigan's got head coaches breaking into people's houses. I mean, it is the coffee calling the kettle black if we're going to start getting up on moral high grounds and be like, you are down here and we are up here and we're so much better than you. It doesn't resonate. So that is, it's a lot of finger pointing. But anyways, Man City Soccer Camps heading to the United States. They are a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, bringing world-class training inspired by Man City's global football philosophy. Players across the U.S. open to boys and girls of all skill levels. These camps focus on technical development, decision-making, and playing the game the City way. Right now, you can save $30 on registration using promo code MCNSN30. Again, that's MCNSN30, or you can scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you, usacamps.mancity.com. Live on the National Soccer Network, hour number 2 here on NSN, getting more into our conversation on the all sports component. Now we have the Super Bowl coming up. Super Bowl Sunday, And one of those quarterbacks in the Super Bowl is Sam Darnold, a.k.a. the Red Rifle, who is trying to get himself a Super Bowl and finally get over that tag of just being the journeyman who can't get it done, because he's had a lot of great years in the National Football League, but now he's one win away from officially cementing his legacy of being, I don't know if he's the first ginger quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. Maybe. I'm not exactly certain, but let's get into my... Yeah, that's true.
I'll search it up.
I'm just trying. I'm trying to think if there's any other ginger quarterbacks. So yeah. You let me know. I'll get into my list. All right, let's start off. Number 5 on the list. I'm gonna go with Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Legendary. By the way, that soundtrack is just top. It's top notch. If I ever put on a Disney playlist, I guarantee you a lot of those songs are gonna be from The Little Mermaid, and I know all of them by heart. When I was a child, she was my first ever crush, Ariel from The Little Mermaid. So I'm going to go with Ariel. Actually, number 5 on my list. One of the top Disney movies, in my personal opinion. If I were to make a top 5 list, it would be somewhere on that top 5. I don't know where in the top 5, but it would certainly be on that list. Number 2, or actually number 4, I guess technically, Alexander the Great, a.k.a. Alexander the Conqueror. Now, I think the Great is a little ironic because he wasn't really all that great in terms of stature. He was a short man, much like they all were back in the day. It's crazy to think that, 5'5" used to be, shout out Napoleon, exactly. 5'5" used to be the average size. Alexander the Great was not a large man, but he was short and he had ginger hair, which means that my man was angry. He wanted to see the world burn. Actually, he wanted to take over the world because he thought, he was the greatest. And so all the short, ginger-haired people, the Irish folks out there that I know that are just angry folks sometimes. They just want to take the world over. Alexander the Great, in a lot of ways, was not great, but he is great in terms of being a conqueror and obviously someone that had their mark on history. So he has to be in my top 5. Number 3 on the list. Little interesting, I guess. You know what? I'm going to go with Jessica Chastain at number 3. Played the lead role in Zero Dark 30, which is one of my favorite military movies of all time. I thought she was absolutely wonderful in that role. She's had some other roles in Hollywood, but I think she knocked it out of the park with that one. That is one of my top end movies. So Jessica Chastain, I can't think off the top of my head of a lot of the other roles that she has, but I would certainly put her in the top 5 as well. Number 2 on this list. Now, I don't know if this is a generational thing, because if I made a joke like this today, I don't know if it would hit quite the same way it did growing up. But Chuck Norris has to be squarely in the top 5. Chuck Norris was like a god in pop culture growing up, in when I was a kid. Every joke was about how, well, Chuck Norris did this. He was like an urban legend, Chuck Norris. He was even in Dodgeball. He had the little cameo at the very end where he puts his thumb up, and that was literally his entire role in the movie. I can't imagine how much money he was actually paid to just simply give the thumbs up to the average Joes at the end of Dodgeball. He is a legend in so many ways. And so Chuck Norris is definitely, I'm surprised he's not number 1 on the list, but I could look up all the different Chuck Norris jokes if we want to get into that. Again, I don't think it hits necessarily with this generation, but Chuck Norris is on there. And number 1 on the list, who's going to win a Super Bowl on Super Bowl Sunday, Sam Darnold, the Red Rifle, is going to bring Gingers to new heights. We're finally going to realize that, yes, it is possible to be a quarterback for an NFL organization and to go out and win a Super Bowl. I can do it too, Ryan, because Sam Darnold did it. Okay, he paved the way for Gingers to continue to become more important in this world and to overcome the odds of the way people look at us. We only have half a soul. We're mutants. We're not all there. We don't have it all. We're a little weird. We're a little cuckoo. We're all these things. Sam Darnold's paving the way, man. He's paving the way for the rest of us. And it's cool to see another Ginger in a position of power who's making an impact the way that Sam Darnold is. So when he wins the Super Bowl, I'm saying it right now, I'm calling my shot. Joe Namath, all right? I'm doing it. He's going to win the Super Bowl in a Ginger who was just seen as a journeyman, and nothing more than a journeyman, nothing more than a guy who can just fill a spot on a roster and be a productive quarterback and maybe get you to the playoffs. No, he's far more than that. He's the Red Rifle, and he's going to win a Super Bowl coming up on Super Bowl Sunday.
All right. I like it. So I did a little bit of research.
All right. Thank you.
There we go. It's a great top 5 list. I did a little bit of research. So Chuck Norris has not publicly disclosed how much he got paid to do that role. And then there has been a ginger quarterback to win the Super Bowl. Brad Johnson, who was the Bucs quarterback in I think the Gruden Super Bowl. He won the Super Bowl, and apparently he is ginger. So that is the lone wolf. So maybe Sam Darnold will join the list of great ginger quarterbacks. Carson Wentz could have won one, but before he died ultimately.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
No. No, I think that's a great top list. I was wondering, is Alexi Lawless going to be on the list?
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No. At all time, I don't think. I mean, maybe. Okay, if I were to stretch this out to like a top 10 on the soccer portion, if this was our number one, maybe Lawless would find his way into my top list. But no. You talk about, you know what? Actually, I should just go back and make him number one just for the social media purposes. I feel like that one would do numbers. Because if Alexi Lawless has mastered one thing, it's not caring what other people think and making himself a character in order to stand out amongst the rest in the media. Yeah, I don't truly believe that he believes everything he says, but he says it with a purpose, and I'll give him credit there.
Yeah, the only soccer players that I recognize that are gingers is Paul Scholes, Alexi Lawless, and Oliver Kahn. I didn't know he was ginger. I thought he was like blonde, but no, I think that's a great list. I thought maybe Cartman, who became ginger for an episode, I thought he would have made the list. I thought he was a really good ginger. Scott Tetherman, obviously ate his parents.
There you go.
He obviously ate his parents. I thought that would have been a good one. With the South Park one. And then he cried in front of the band that he loved.
Yep.
Got his revenge on Scott Tetherman.
Yep.
But no, it's a good list. I think if you're a ginger out there and Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl, I feel like that's got to be like your Cooper DeJean moment for the Whites for Cooper for the cornerback position. Like he really did well on that.
You still got other ones on. I mean, a top 5 is tough, right? You got, Emma Stone, who's just an outstanding actress. You have Adele, who's obviously ginger. Yes, believe it or not. I don't know if she's like dyed her hair, and that's maybe why she's not, but apparently naturally she is a ginger, which we talk about great performers because I know both you and I are going, I believe, to the same Bruno concert coming up not too long from now in Detroit. I actually think Adele would be you talk about a good performer to see. I think she would be amazing live. To be completely honest with you, I would go watch it. Ed Sheeran's also on the list, although I don't. Some places have him list way higher than what he needs to. He's number 2 on the list that I'm looking at in front of me, which I'm just kind of looking up lists of gingers right now. Oh yeah, Mr. I'm closer to LeBron than you are. I love that line.
How about
oh, that's so funny.
The legend himself, Bill Walton.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Who was, I felt like, under the influence of every broadcast that he did.
Yeah, he was not a very agreeable person, was he? I feel like
he was just saying stuff to say stuff.
Yeah. I vivid memories of watching him going back and forth with oh, you know what? I forgot to even mention this one. Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin,
ginger?
Mr. Lob City himself. Yes, of course he was ginger. Obviously he's mixed, but he had red hair. Absolutely, he had red hair. That counts. Yeah, I would. Mark McGuire, I guess, is another one if we're gonna go the baseball angle. But yeah, Blake Griffin.
McGuire.
If I'm, the Mr. Steroids. Dale Earnhardt Jr. for our NASCAR fans out there. But yeah, man, if I'm ever feeling down on my luck, I'll just pop up a Blake Griffin highlight reel and just watch it for 7 minutes.
Let's see if there's any ginger hockey players.
Roy Halladay, another baseball one.
A couple. Cody Eakin, Claude Giroux.
Oh, okay.
Scott.
Ooh, Claude Giroux.
Scott Hartnell, James Neal, Dan Clary, played with the Red Wings.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think he's a Michigan kid too. I think Dan Clear is from Michigan.
Let's see.
So
he is. He is not. He is from Canada. Maybe he grew up here, but he is from Canada. That's said where he's born. So, no, I think that's it's a good top
I'll
five.
give you one last one here before we go to break and we get into our final topic and question of the day. You know who my favorite ginger is, though? The Lucky Charms guy. The little Lucky Charms guy on the box. I'm pretty sure he's a ginger. And I love me some Lucky Charms.
So I would imagine.
We can rank our cereals if we want to rank our cereals one of these days, because Lucky Charms definitely in the top 5.
He would be a ginger.
All right, okay.
I mean, he's a cartoon, so I would hope.
Got Reese's Puffs, got Cinnamon Life. Let's go through our top cereals one of these days. Maybe that can be question of the day. But let's take a quick break, and we'll bring it right back for our final topic here for episode 221 on Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind. Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics, letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail. Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play, NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate. Call 586-304-4405 and start watching today. Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind. Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics, letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail. Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play, NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate. Call 586-304-4405 and start watching today.
Back live on Inside the Game, Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky entering our final segment here of this show here today, episode 221 on Inside the Game. Big moment for the Detroit Tigers and obviously their fans coming up here shortly. Arbitration hearing is tomorrow for Tarik Skubal. We've already talked on the show about the massive gap between what the Tigers offered and what obviously Tarik Skubal was looking for.
Shocker.
$13 million, the difference. And obviously the conversations between Boris's camp and Skubal's camp have stalled out, but obviously they continue, and we're going to find out here very quickly of what the outcome of all of this is. So Ryan, I'll kind of give you the floor to share your opinion here first, but it really comes down to priorities. What do the Tigers want? And I think we've laid out both sides. I think you talked about kind of the disappointment of him not being allowed to continue going in that game where we got knocked out against the Seattle Mariners. Obviously I mentioned, you're only going to have them once every 5 days. What if there's a blowout injury? It's a lot of things to consider, but it is this saga that we've seen continue into the offseason, and now we're going to finally get some resolution on it. But I mean, how do you see this playing out? It's around $25.5 million. The two sides are going to decide on an over and under in terms of where they want to go. Obviously, Scooble's camp is going to want the over on this. How do you see this playing out ultimately?
Poorly. Poorly.
Yeah.
That's. I ultimately think that Boris wants Scooble out. I think he wants Scooble out of Detroit. I think Scooble kind of wants out himself anyway. Like, he can say all he wants. He can show up to all these different games, the Pistons, the Red Wings, the Lions games. He can do all that. And I mean, it feels like a media thing at this point for him to say, I didn't try, or I at least tried. I want to be here. But no, I think that ultimately both parties are going to split. And again, if you disagree on arbitration, does that mean you can be traded or can you still stay? Like, I don't understand how that part works.
If you can't like come to a you can be traded. Yeah, absolutely.
But ultimately, if they don't agree on this, he could still technically play here because he's under contract for 1 more year, right?
Okay. Yes. Yep. Okay. Yep. And then obviously then he probably becomes, I would imagine, I mean, unless they're dominating and they're first in the Central, then he becomes kind of a trade asset, I guess, at that point for the Tigers. Then they can deal him and figure out exactly where and what they want back for him. Yeah. So that's kind of how that.
That's why we got Nate here, because I don't understand baseball fully. But no, I ultimately think we're just on the path of it's just gonna split. That's what I think. I think we're ultimately gonna split here, and it's not gonna be a good thing because I feel like if you have the best pitcher in baseball or the best athlete in any position, and especially a dominant position like a pitcher, and we have Scooble obviously, and I mean we could argue Paul Skeens is better.
Yeah.
Shout out who to bet on Thursday. Just to put it out there for you people.
Yes, sir.
But no, I ultimately think that when you have a player of Scooble's caliber and how good he could be and how good he is in the grand scheme of all pitchers, I feel like we should be going all in to get him, to try to win a World Series when you have the best pitcher in baseball. Because you think about it, when you go into a 3-game series in the wild card, you have them at least once, and then you have to win one more game. And then if you get to the divisional, you have them at least twice in a 5-game. And then when you get to a championship series in the World Series, if you get to 7 games, I feel like you'll have them for 3 times. And I feel like that gives you – I feel like those are very, very winnable games. At least it's going to be slated in your favor to win because you have the best pitcher in baseball. However, I just think that they want out. Ultimately, it's not a matter of – if we can talk about Illich being cheap all we want, and it's proven at least the Sun, Chris.
Yeah.
But I just ultimately think that he wants out. I don't think Scooble wants to be here. I don't think Boris wants him here. And I look at the Jose Ramirez contract, and I'm like, so Ramirez is going to give up $10 million every single year to stay in effing Cleveland? Cleveland?
Yeah.
So I just feel like if you're Scooble, you would at least give up some money in order to stay here, and that's ultimately where I think we're headed. I think it's gonna be a split. Obviously, you got a little bit better explanation than I do. I'm just saying words to say words, but yeah, no, I think we're ultimately splitting.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is just for show for the Tigers on their part, and I think part of it is trying to rid themselves of responsibility or getting out ahead of it and saying, hey, listen, we tried, we came to the table, we offered our number, we couldn't agree. It is what it is. And so that's kind of the way that I look at this now, that this is just simply turned into a show. And if the relationship between Tarek Skubal and the Tigers front office wasn't ruptured, I believe it is ruptured now. And it's just after all this time of going back and forth and Skubal shopping the market and eventually coming to this valuation of what he thinks he's worth, it has put really a strain on this relationship between him and Detroit. And so even if there's somehow a deal that's able to be struck, which I don't think is going to happen, it's really a hard look for Detroit. And I think the thing that's most telling in doing some research on this and looking back at obviously the history of the Tigers, if they were to pay him the number that they initially offered, it would only, I believe, be like $50,000 more than the last highest arbitration that they had ever given to a pitcher, which was David Price. And that was like, it would only be, again, only $50,000 more for someone like Tarik Skubal, who, again, all respect to David Price, Tarik Skubal's on another planet. I mean, when you have 2 Cy Youngs, you're a part of a pantheon of pitchers that separates themselves from anybody else. You're a part of the DeGroms. You're a part of those population of pitchers. So that's the most troubling part, is that rate in a lot of ways has not gone up for the Tigers. And of course, that was a much different situation there. That was, Dombrowski. So, it was a much different day and age. But I do think a lot of this is to try and save face for the Tigers, to say, hey, listen, we came to the table, we tried our best, we did what we could, it just didn't work out. It is what it is. We're moving forward. Because I think when Scott Boras, the one thing he always likes doing, the only thing the thing that he wants to do is he wants players, when it comes time to sign a new contract, to go out and shop the market, to figure out what they think they're valued and come back to him with a number. And I think in some ways it's smart, because he doesn't want to re-sign anybody too early, and then all of a sudden they resent him because they look at, hey, here's the valuation, or here's what this guy made, right? Like, I could have made that much more, but yet I decided to take less. So I think, but it can also work against him at the same time, because then the Boras camp comes out with, hey, here's a number we like, but yet Tarik Skubal just went and looked at the market and went, hey, look at what the Dodgers are paying, look at what the Padres are paying, look at what they would give me in that valuation. So it is really hard for me to imagine a day in which, or even tomorrow, that we can come to some sort of mutual agreement on what the number will be that will satisfy both camps. And to your point about, does Skubal even want to be in Detroit? I think he does, but I don't think he does bad enough to take a pay cut. Either that, or he doesn't think this team is capable of winning a World Series next year. And I think that might be... Which I think that might be the part, frankly, to be frank with you, Ryan, and he would never say that part out loud. Maybe that's the bigger part here. Maybe he just takes a look at that roster and goes, we're not at the point of going out and competing for a World Series. Also, the insecurity of, okay, I have one more year left to play, nothing really guaranteed after that, and then thinking about the potential of maybe re-injuring his shoulder or something else along those lines. So that is, I think, for number one, it's security. Obviously, you want to know that you have a long-term contract and you have a lot of money coming in. That is a big thing for Skubal, because you have to strike while the iron is hot. And I think that is the biggest part for Skubal right now, because he's 30 years old. He's almost 30 years old. Like, that's getting up there in pitcher years. Like, you wouldn't think so. Like, you look at guys like JV, but like Justin Verlander is like a unicorn 29. In all this. Like, 29. So, I mean, he's on the verge of 30. So, like, we're getting there. Like, this isn't quite Paul Skeens. Like, we're right there. So security has to be top of mind for them. But also from Skubal's camp, it's completely realistic, because you have to strike while the iron is hot. You're the best pitcher in baseball right now. And so I just don't think the Tigers are just so allergic to pouring out money the way that maybe they used to. And I think it's because they have a front office that believes that they're developing really well, which they are developing really well. And maybe their justification it doesn't matter what Avila did. Avila wasn't us. Like, the process starts not all over again, but in a lot of ways it starts anew when the new regime comes in. Yeah. And so, is this, are they looking at this in the grand scheme of things and going, hey, we're not in a place to compete right now? Like, so why would we go and offer you something similar to what Juan Soto is getting, when Juan Soto plays every day? And we're only going to get you one out of every 5 days. So, it's tough.
I also think the kids play a factor in this as well. Because you think about 100%. Because I ultimately think that the Red Wings and the Tigers are built very similar, and obviously same owner. You could make that comparison, but it's bring the kids up at the same time and all like kind of come together as one. And if you're Scott Harris, which I ultimately don't necessarily agree with, but because when you have the best pitcher in baseball, I feel like you kind of have to compete to win a World Series. That's just my thinking. Or you trade the guy and get assets yourself. And now we're kind of, I feel like if the goal is to trade Scooble, or if the goal is this, to wait for the kids, wait for Max Clark, Briseño, McGonigal, which ultimately some of those guys could be up here this upcoming season for all I know. But
Kevin McGonigal, I truly believe will. Yeah.
But they're ultimately not going to be all-stars right away. They're not going to be these stud players that are going to help you win a World Series right away. It's going to take some time. But if the goal is to ultimately wait for the kids and not win a World Series right now, then I would just get rid of Scooble at this point. Just trade him. Because if you are not in win-now mode, if you are not in win-now, just get rid of him. Get maximum value that you can. And right now it's probably 50 cents on the dollar at the moment. We get to the trade deadline, it's pennies on the dollar. Unless they're competing in the playoffs and they're first in the AL Central. But again, the AL Central is very weak. So there's a possibility.
And for the Tigers, because they are such a good pitching development program, and we've seen that time and time again, in their ability to get the most toothpaste out of the tube in terms of their pitching development. I also just tend to believe that there is a school of thought that even without having our headliner, that they can create a staff from within that is going to be able to sustain them and provide them success. Yeah, and they can use Scooble as someone to go out and get other assets in terms of whether it be offensive, but definitely bats that could carry this team, this franchise into the future. So that is, there's so many angles to this story that it's really tough to just come to one conclusion. But the part is, I don't blame either side. Like I know that we like to pick sides and have these large sweeping opinions about, one side or the other, blame the organization. And no one's going to blame Tarek Skubal. Like Tarek Skubal's Tarek Skubal. He's done what he's done in Detroit. But I don't think there's a lot of gray area when it comes to this whole story with Tarek Skubal, because again, like I don't think you can doubt what the organization has done in terms of developing. When you look at the minor leagues, this was a historical year in that regard. So they do develop well. They do have a system that is working for them. Is Tarek Skubal going to be a long-term part of that equation? I don't know. We're gonna figure out certainly tomorrow. But let's get into a question of the day.
Yep, 100%. And everyone knows the drill. Salt Athletic, an official sponsor, is here at the National Soccer Network. Save 15% by using promo code NSN15 to save on that #1 smell-proof cleat bag. That 100% works. Can put anything in it: food, basketball shoes, soccer cleats. Gotta ask John if I can use this for pickup basketball on Wednesdays. And scan that QR code or visit saltathletic.com today. But if you are trying to win one for free, we have the Salt Athletic bag giveaway still going on. That's right. We have 20 more weeks to give out 20 more of these bags. Just head over to our Instagram, NatSoccerTV. Drop us a follow and go on any of the posts that have the Salt Athletic bag giveaway and comment hashtag NSN Salt giveaway and tag one friend, and you'll be entered to win that week's giveaway. We gave one out last Friday, and we'll do the same thing right here live on the show right at the end around this time, right during question of the day. So make sure you do that, and then tune in Friday to see the winner. We'll also ship it to you completely free, so no charge that way. But let's get into it. Question of the day. Was 2025 some of the worst music ever? Because, God, I felt like the whole year was just garbage.
Yeah. I actually watched the Grammys. I don't actually do that. The only time I ever watch that thing is if I just so happen to be sitting in the room and it's on. But this year I actually consumed it. Like I actually watched it, and pretty much all the musical performances. I like some of the people that, like, a lot of the musicians or people that were nominated for things. I had no idea. I had no clue. Like everyone they were listing off, I was like,
Who?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the performances. Yeah, I know who Sabrina Carpenter is. Obviously, I know who Justin Bieber is. I don't like that you don't like the Biebs. That you think he's got bad. I think Bieber, it's great.
Fever.
Well, I don't have fever either. I just think he's great. But anyways,
his performance sucked, by the way.
No, maybe.
Dude, I didn't understand what he was saying. He was horrible.
He's a little edgy now, isn't he? Like he's just a little yeah. He also seemed like personally offended by all the jokes that were the little light roast of him before the festivities started. So yeah, he's an interesting character for sure. I think Jay Biebs was indoctrinated early in life, and so I think that there's probably a lot to unpack there in terms of like the Hollywood component of it all. Yeah, I tend to think that as well. So I recognized all those people, but a lot of the other people that were nominated, I just no clue. So I mean, and all the music I listen to is either early 2000s or like 2016 or like 90s. I maybe that's just me getting old. Maybe this is one of these things of just part of, knocking on the door of 30 years old. Like I'm right there. Like maybe that's just part of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think Bad Bunny's fun though.
No, he's gonna be horrible.
I'm gonna disagree with you.
He was already trashed in the Super Bowl a couple years ago with Shakira and J-Lo. He just ruined it. I mean, the guy stinks. But anyway, so I'm looking at it. I didn't know who Lola Young was. I didn't know that. I don't know if you get this, Nate, but whenever I like the radio, sometimes I have the radio on the car. Sometimes, and whenever like the beat to anxiety goes on, I always think it's somebody I used to know, and I actually like that song. And then when I'm about to sing the part, and anxiety, and I'm like, dude, shut up! This song's horrible.
Yeah.
That
and I hate that.
Genuinely pisses me off all the time. Like that genuinely pisses me off.
I hate when people dub old sounds and put new lyrics over it, and then people are like, yeah, that's the song. No, it's not the song. Actually, there was a song once upon a time that's better than this song that you just pulled that from.
I don't like Bad Bunny. I don't like Billie Eilish, which the only thing I've ever liked about Billie Eilish is that she's a big Office fan. And when Rainn Wilson went to go interview the biggest Office fan ever, he goes, and I heard it's a little boy named Billy. Opens up the door, it's Billie Eilish, the singer. And he's like, tough. I mean, Lady Gaga's not real. She's just not a real human being. She's a robot. She's not real.
Might be a little bionic.
Sabrina Carpenter. I don't like her music. Surprised Tate McRae didn't get anything. Or is that like 2025 when she did that? All I'll give you is the Bruno Mars performances. That was the only two that I liked.
Bruno's fun. I feel like Bruno is not Bruno is for everybody, right? It's just vibes music. So it's
like
I don't think there's a current artist that I really just am dying to listen to. I don't know.
Who is Chappelle Roan? Do you know who that is? I don't know.
Chapel Roan?
Chapel.
Chappelle. That's great. From the Chappelle. It's Dave Chappelle, actually. Yeah. Which I think probably would have been more entertaining.
I mean, yeah.
That's great. Chappelle Roan. No, Chapel Roan, which she's good, but again, it's like a lot of like sad girl stuff. I don't.
First off, how did Fred again not win Dance Electronic Album of the Year? Like, who is this FKA Twigs? Who's that? No, Fred again's a dog. You give it to Fred again in the EDM atmosphere. Like,
I'm gonna let you take that one because I don't know anything about EDM.
Even looking at rock performance, we're not giving it to Linkin Park's Emptiness Machine. Are we not? It's a goated song, and it performed at the Champions League final. God, metal performance. I don't even know who that. Like, I don't even know who any of these people are. And I'm like, and I'm 22, about to be 23, and I hate all this stuff.
I think as soon as we go into a true like recession, like a true like downturn, or like maybe there's a housing market crash, that's when music is really going to start making a rebound. Because that's when the best music that comes out during the times where the world sucks the most. So if we ever get that happening, we're gonna be back, man. We're gonna turn the clocks back, and we're gonna have some great musical performances again, some hits, if you will. But like, if you go back to 2016, I mean, 2016 had some hits, so I don't know. I miss the pre-COVID days, some days. So
sometimes.
But anyways, that'll wrap up episode 221 here on Inside the Game. Give us a follow online, National Soccer Network, wherever you find your social media. Back at it tomorrow for episode 222. But until then, see ya.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wenger bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This